every ad that you see will be AI generated. There is no way that's not going to be the case. Because every ad is going to be AI, you have to.
Patrick runs Superscale, which uses AI to build full ad campaigns from a single prompt. You paste a link, it researches winning ads and generates ready-to-launch creative for Meta, Google, and TikTok. He's also angel invested in more than 20 startups, including Lovable. His take is that marketers are about to work the way engineers already do. This is The Quest, covering growth stories from the people building AI. And I'm Diksha, your host. Why did you decide to build a product for marketers?
Basically, every single business function would become majorly disrupted by AI. I think you will see fully agentically executed marketing operations very soon. And so then we came to marketing.
Do you ever get asked the question that why do I need Superscale? I have Claude.
If you wanted to do what Superscale can do today in Claude, you have to do a lot of stitching. You will not get to the same result.
Actually, I used Superscale and it was very intuitive and amazing.
A lot of the need for something like Superscale right now is simply because of the AI revolution itself. Imagine every single competitor of yours starting to optimize their process with AI. You get under a lot of pressure because now everyone else in the market is also running more creatives. They're also running more tests.
What is your advice to a marketer today who wants to still stay relevant?
I do think you have to become a hardcore user of these tools. And you have to adopt that mindset that if you try something in AI and you see that it doesn't work yet, you basically have to kind of estimate when that will be working. And then that estimation you have to cut by half at least.
So you have 2 kids, you have a startup, you've angel invested in 10 plus startups, as I see on your LinkedIn. How does your day look like with all this?
That's actually that's actually a good question. I think I was recently thinking about making writing up a short post because I get that question, once or twice a week in terms of, hey, how does your day look like? The reality is no day looks the same. It's really difficult to when you have small children, it's difficult to really plan out your life perfectly. An average day, I would say, looks like me, getting up with the kids pretty early in the morning. Sometimes I most of the times try to be up earlier than them to have that kind of quiet hour in the morning. But it depends on how the night was, if that works out or not. Then spending it with the kids for the first 1 or 1.5 hours in the day, and then on some days they go to daycare. And then I just spend the time, working or like a sports session beforehand, and then spend the time working. And then at 5 p.m., the evening routine starts, right? So we have dinner quite early because small children have dinner quite early. Mm-hmm. And then we play and we have some family time until around 7:30. And then I usually continue my work for a couple hours, and that's really how the day goes, right? So it's quite a schedule. I told you before the podcast, I have to jump at some point, and that's really usually how things go. But yeah, I mean, it's the 2 of us, and so we manage quite well, right, with the 2 little ones. So but yeah, no day is really the same, and it's always quite difficult to manage everything at the same time, but yeah, we've been doing well so far.
I also have an 8-month-old, and mine also, like, every day doesn't look same. And I don't know, but I personally feel that I became hyper productive after having a kid in terms of like the number of hours I have and the number of stuff I get done. So yeah, cool. Nice to meet a fellow parent. Now, I have been reading your LinkedIn posts, and I read something where you said that the job you were doing for 14 years, that is product management, it's becoming a completely new role. This podcast is not about product managers, but it's about growth. And, growth and product is merging. So from a growth manager perspective, I want to understand that what is the moment that you felt that product management is changing, and how and why?
It's not been one single moment over the past years in which I've felt that change happening in like, one day or so. I think it's been gradual, but it's been accelerating quite a lot. And so what I've noticed is, when I think back about really about what I've done most of my career is that you kind of come up with a product idea, you define that idea, and you try to get it engineered with the team, and then get it out there. And ideally, if the product is well designed and well executed, and it solves a real problem, it will be adopted quite quickly. Now, I think the reality is that a couple of things are happening at the moment in the tech world at the same time. You have that enormous speed on the AI side in terms of how things are developing, right? And so everything that you're building, you're basically building it on a moving ground, which is already making it hard, right? Like there's continuous development that you have to basically make part of what you're building at any point in time. Then there is massive shift in the building itself, right? So, of course, coding agents having a huge impact on the speed in terms of how you can develop software. Then LLMs and other, AI tools having basically an impact on every other function in the business. So everything is in motion. And I think the core thing that I've realized is that you have to basically find a completely new way of operating, which means kind of having a view on where is the world moving in the coming, 2-3 months. What will that have an impact, or what will the impact be on my product? And then how can I market that product? And that's basically in tandem all the time, right? And it's kind of like connected all the time, where it's like, and especially because there are so many products being developed also, right? Because of the rise of coding agents. So now you have coding agents, basically so many people are building software now. So then the attention is of course extremely limited, and you have to get to people to pay attention to your product. And so I think the interesting thing is that, AI solves a lot of problems, but the reality is that I think in most companies, have problems across the board, right? Like knowing what to build, how to build it, having the right process to build it, then having the right process to market it, to get attention really for what you've built. And so it's like a disruption across the board, really, in terms of what's happening, right? And so I think for me the perspective is quite interesting, because I've really done, at this point, I think actually more than 20 investments, even myself, in private startups, right? And so I have that broad view in like several different companies. And so you look into the company that I'm running right now, but you look at other companies as well, and then how they try to navigate that environment. And every single company, however successful they are in the current moment, they have to figure out like, okay, what do we do in 3 months? What do we do in half a year? And that time frame is just crazy when you think about like how much change is happening. So I think that's really my core observation, or a couple of observations over the last 2 or 3 years.
And why did you decide to build a product for marketers? Why did you decide Superscale out of everything that was happening, and out of, now you have such a broad perspective? Why this? Why did you pinpoint on this?
Honestly, so one of our earliest investors actually had the main idea, right? So I want to give credit where credit is due. Like we were having a lunch and we were talking about, where the world is going. And this was quite early in the days of Lovable as well. And so we were thinking about like, okay, we had a software agency beforehand, right? So we were like a product and tech studio basically, and we were building products for companies, with companies. And so we're thinking about like, okay, if this becoming agentic and you can now just prompt a website and you get the product, what happens to the other business functions, right? And I think looking back, which is probably around 1.5 years ago now, like looking back at that point in time, that kind of prediction that basically every single business function that's available would become like majorly disrupted by AI, right? That has definitely come true, right? Or that is coming true, with every single month basically passing. And so we thought about like, okay, what is like very likely what's going to be an area in which we can have a big impact here, and what's going to be the next one, kind of, right? Like that will be affected by this change. And so then we came to marketing, and we thought like, okay, marketing and distribution is probably something that's going to be changed. And from what I'm seeing right now, honestly, is that I think in the last probably 3-4 months, that change is now materializing very fast. So the first wave was kind of like you had AI tools to build out creatives and do some things in marketing. And so now with kind of the latest release in models that has become available. Now it's on the horizon. It's actually I think this is happening very soon, where you will see more or less fully agentically executed marketing operations, right? And that could be organic or it could be paid marketing without a human, or like without a human basically having to do the work, where the human is only only observing. And so what I've said for a long time is that I think engineering is kind of like a couple years ahead of every other business function, right? So you look at engineers today and how they work, which is basically they've become like orchestrators of agents. I mean, really at the core, they launch agents, sometimes several at the same time, and they watch them work. And then when the work comes back, they review the work and then they iterate on that. And so I think that's actually what's happening in every other function as well, right? I mean, ultimately, every person that presses computer buttons and clicks the mouse will be someone that oversees a number of agents, and these AI agents will actually do the work, and you will just look at things and review and instruct and provide ideas. And so I think that's where things are moving, and I think that's now happening, and that's now starting to happen in marketing. It's gonna change marketing very fast. And so we're in that space building, but it's going to be other things as well, right? I mean, recently introduced like a new customer service tool at Superscale, and so it's also happening there in service, and it's happening in engineering, and it's going to happen in product, it's going to happen in design. It's going to be everywhere. So that's how I think about it, and that's originally why we looked into it. We just found it an interesting space, and we thought it's going to be next after software, right? You then have to figure out distribution, and so how will that look in the future? And that's when we started working on it.
Actually, I used Superscale, and it was very intuitive and amazing when I went into the product. So congrats on that. And while I was using it, I was thinking that, oh man, to implement this, I need a budget. I need a certain kind of budget to at least be, run all these A/B tests across different ads. So, what segment of marketers are you actually targeting in terms of what should be their ad spend? Or is it also someone for example, is it also for a solopreneur, or because it's a little anti the organic marketing approach as well. So you need to have a established paid function to use your product, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think you're hinting at an important factor as well. I think I wouldn't say that you need an established paid function, but you need you have to have a real need for paid marketing, right? And so and you actually want to run paid marketing at a significant scale. Now, what significant means depends on the budget that you want to spend on ads, and then it kind of reflects back on how many creatives, how many tests, how many variations you need, right? And that's of course the paid marketing playbook. You have, of course, content that you can generate for organic channels as well, and a lot of people are using AI to do that as well. But we focus on the paid marketing side, right? And so you can use the platform for generating organic content for your accounts if you want to, but the big thing we're trying to solve is on the paid marketing side, and that's across right now the Meta platforms, Google and TikTok as well. And so of course you have to know that you want to run paid marketing there, and you want to run it seriously. Now, of course, if we look at our customer base, the more seriously that you're already running your paid marketing, the more relevant that Superscale is for you, right? Because with a higher budget, that pain that you have, which is I need creatives, I need ad ideas, I need to run the research, I need to analyze what's going on, right? Like you need a whole function to basically keep it running. That gets worse, of course, the more you spend. Right? Simply because you need more volume, you need more creatives, you need to get to the point where it's actually like the machine is running. And so you can start early using something like Superscale, but then obviously the core value will come as you scale your marketing as well, right? And then it has even more impact. And so you drive larger volume, and you get to a point where you actually, get to a point where like it has a bigger impact on your marketing operations because your marketing operations is simply bigger. Now, I think one important point to consider here is that a lot of the need for something like Superscale right now for people that are running paid marketing on these platforms is simply because of the AI revolution itself, right? Like imagine every single competitor of yours like starting to optimize their process with AI on the research side, on the analysis side, on the creative side. Like you get under a lot of pressure because now everyone else in the market is also running more creatives. They're also running more tests, right? They're getting faster to that point of having the right insight that you don't have. And so you want to get to that point where it's like, okay, now we can literally catch up, right? We're as enabled marketing wise. And I think, if I look at what we're building like for the long term, we want to make it incredibly easy to launch and deploy marketing agents for you, right? Like if you're in software engineering, you have an IDE today, you have an interface, and you can spin up all these agents to do the coding for you. Now, I think in marketing, it's actually, less straightforward because there's these lot of different things that you have to cover, right? You have to create statics, you have to create video, you have to run analysis, you have to be able to push things into ad accounts, you have to look into the budget. So you have all these roles today that are running these different things, and there's like a lot of knowledge behind each one of them. But what people actually want is they kind of like, they think about like, okay, everyone is kind of starting to use agents, right? And so I also want to have agents, right? I also want to be able to, give my work to, or at least like have AI support my work and empower me to do more. And so I think that's kind of the long-term thing that we're working towards, which is like you literally have a platform where you have different agents and you can deploy these agents and they start helping you get the work done. And that's really where things are going, right? And so today there's a lot of agents on Superscale building static ads, and there's agents analyzing ad accounts. And we are starting now like to push, agents that are going to upload the ads into your account. And so, you have these different agents that are helping you achieve different things in your marketing journey. And over time, you get enabled you basically get enabled to do more in your job as someone in marketing.
So it's a full stack. So it's going to become a full stack for marketers, not just like the ad aspect of it is what I'm understanding.
Yeah. I mean, the ad aspect is quite present at the moment, but you can actually already run research. So you can run competitive research. You can, exactly. So you can run trends research on Reddit, for example. You can analyze your ad accounts. So right now that works for Google, the Meta platforms, and for TikTok. So you can connect your ad account, run an analysis on it with the agent, right, and get recommendations. And so it's definitely going to get full stack and interconnected as well. And we are working on that right now because that's also like, I mean, ultimately, this is where a big impact is actually. That's where the big impact is going to be, right? It's like you can literally connect your ad account and you get every single day, for example, you can have a short data review, and you get that pushed to your Slack, and you can email like, hey, okay, this is what happened yesterday night. Like, here's the numbers, here's the developments, like, do that now to adjust things and like move it forward. And so I think that's really where things are going. And so I think, in half a year or a year, I mean, depends on really how quickly we can get there, but I think you will see, someone in marketing being in their role. I mean, their role will have evolved to someone that's kind of like building and instructing these agents. But you will have someone in marketing, and they will have 5, 6, 7 agents. They are set up and they do things. Sometimes some are scheduled, they're running every day. Sometimes they're, some are just there and they are prompted when they should work. And so you have your kind of your team of agents, assembled around you, and they're going to help you run your operation. That's really how things are going to look, which is interesting, right? Because it's like, I mean, it kind of sounds like, okay, this is the big vision for marketing. This is literally how software engineering already looks today, right? So it's not really that surprising, I think, to me, that this is like how every function will look.
So what is your advice to a marketer today, let's say with 5 to 6 years of experience, who wants to still stay relevant in 6 months? What should this person do?
So I think, first of all, I really want to emphasize, I'm deliberately not a person that believes that AI will replace everyone, right? I really don't believe that at all. I actually find it pretty sad that for example, the CEO of Anthropic, like one of the biggest, most relevant AI companies in the world, is constantly pushing this narrative of like, okay, everyone will lose their job, right? And it's maybe helpful to their growth because then, of course, like you push that narrative and then media picks it up, and it's kind of like it's a sad
Rage
way
bait.
of yeah, exactly. It's like a sad way of doing marketing. I would actually love, like, they have amazing brand, right? I would love for them to be much more positive about AI. But so I really am genuinely positive about AI, right? I think like engineering agents can replace all the engineers. This the same thing will happen in marketing. I don't think that many people will be replaced in their jobs. Now, I do think, and this is true for me as well as anyone, I do think you have to become a hardcore user of these tools, right? And you have to I think the most important thing is you have to adopt that mindset that if you try something in AI and you see that it doesn't work yet, you basically have to you have to kind of estimate in your mind like how that will, like when that will be working, and then that estimation you have to cut by half at least. Right. So you like, I have never found myself estimating correctly when something will work, and it's always going to be sooner. Right. So you see something and you're like, oh yeah, this ad looks great, but it's like not perfect yet. Literally like a couple of weeks later, something launches and that problem is gone. Right. And that's been literally at when we started building Superscale, the platform basically couldn't do anything of what it can do today. Right. And that's like 11 months ago, 12 months ago. So I think that's one really important point. Now, if you want to stay relevant, you have to start using agents. That's really what you have to do, right? You have to basically think about like, okay, how can I use infrastructure, and you can use Superscale, for example, right, as like one way to do this. How can I start instructing AI to do work for me? That's really the core of what's happening, right? And so you get that work back, and how do I provide better instructions? How do I write good prompts? How do I create context, right? Context is extremely important. So what kind of context do I have to give the AI system to do great work for me? What kind of integrations are needed? How do I kind of put things together for myself so that they work like they should work? And that's what you have to learn. So there is something to learn. There's development that people have to make. I'm not saying that. I mean, if you're saying like no to AI and you don't touch any tool, I don't really think that you're going to be relevant in the future, for sure, right? You have to continue evolving, but that has always been true, right? Like even with AI, right? If you're in your job, you just need to continue learning. But in AI, you have to start understanding, in a world where I have 5, 6, 7, 10 agents that basically do all the operational work that I'm doing today, and I'm only reviewing and instructing. And I'm saying like only, I think has to be quote unquote here, because it's still a very relevant job, right? It's not as if you're now can sit back and you don't have to work anymore. Like it's extremely difficult to come up with the right ideas to give to the AI system so they actually do some great work for you, right? Like give you one example. Let's say you have Superscale and Superscale literally in 3 minutes can build 20 ads for every business, right? You literally put in a website and you get 20 ads. Now that's a first step, right? That's now like an AI system has done some work for you. But now you get to this point of like, okay, now you realize, all right, I'm not like completely production constrained anymore, right? I can basically have a system build any ad that comes to mind. Now, what you can do now is you can have great ideas for ads, right? And that's actually, that's the role of a creative strategist. And that's a role in itself. Like you could literally spend the entire day thinking about what is the best possible, funniest, most relevant, most up-to-date way for me to advertise my product. And when you have that idea, you put it in a box and you send it to the AI, and the system is going to work on that idea for you and create ads or draft a campaign or write some hooks for a video or something like that, right? And so the role evolves. And I think if you're open to evolving, you're going to be extremely relevant actually in the future, right? Because there's going to be some people that really do this hardcore, and then everyone will want to hire them because they're all like, okay, look, we have to set up marketing. How do we do this? We have to leverage AI. Every one of our competitors. So that's, I think, really where things are going.
Yeah, and also I feel like using just the chat function is such an underutilization of all these AI tools, and we are already at level 6 from what we were, when I mean, there are still people using it in chat and thinking like they have learned how to, build agents, etc. So that's good advice. Do you ever get asked the question that why do I need Superscale? I have Claude, and do you also fear that Superscale will just become a feature in one of these big LLMs?
I think honestly, I mean, literally, if you're building anything in AI, you have to ask yourself that question,
Yeah.
right? Like literally. I mean, if you're not doing that, I think you're missing a pretty big point. Now, I can give you a simple answer, and then I can give you a detailed answer. The simple answer, it's maybe a bit funny. It's like, okay, go ahead and try to do it in Claude, right? That's what I
Okay.
would say. Usually people, I mean, if you wanted to do what Superscale can do today in Claude, you have to do a lot of stitching, right? You have to have like maybe even someone from the engineering team and try to put some things together. You will not get to the same result, right? So there's really quite some custom built logic and connection. And like simple example, right? Like Superscale, I think runs on, for different tasks, on probably around 15 different models, right? And these are not all available in Claude, right? Obviously, right? So there is some limitations, I think, that over time will continue to be there. And we are building a very specific platform, right? That has a very specific workflow. Now, will the model providers start kind of like introducing functionality that covers part of that journey? Yes, they already do. Right. And that's the challenge that we have as a business. And I think that's actually the challenge that every vertical company has. What we are doing, the way that we think about this, is we are going deeper and deeper into that specific workflow, right? So we're looking at paid ads. What do you need in terms of agents, in terms of UI, in terms of like the user experience to really get to the level of getting the job done? Right. And so if you go to Claude today, you can still like whatever, you connect one of your ad accounts and you ask like, okay, can you make an analysis for me? And you will get an analysis back. But then you have that part of your work and you're like, okay, I still need to build ads and I still need to, run my research and figure out new ideas. And so you have an helper in one of the areas, right? What I am imagining is really like, you want to have an agent that basically every Monday morning at 9 a.m. pulls all your ad data, does the research on like, okay, this is all the ads that your competitors launched last week. This is the ad. This is how your ads worked last week, your own ads. Compares the different channels, creates 10 new ad concepts, sends you an email when they're ready, right? And possibly even like you're saying, like, okay, I like this one, I like that one, and then it uploads to your account. Now that is a huge workflow, right? You have to really put a lot of things together to make that happen in one single task. And so that's what we're working towards. Now, it's not something that I'm not concerned about. Like, honestly, I try every single feature that comes out in Claude. I try it myself to kind of keep, informed on like, okay, what is happening in the space. But it's mainly, because I know that we're building ultimately like a specific tool. It's mainly because I want to understand where's the core user experience evolving to, right? Because one thing that does happen, if you build an agent system, you can build a very specific agent that can do a task better than you can do it in the Claude app, for example. But people will still be used to that user experience in Claude, right? Like how the loading state works and like how quickly you get an answer and like that general look and feel, right? Of how agents work. And so there is something to take away from there to learn when you build a product. But I don't think that like they will build everything that we're building, right? And I mean, honestly, if you're a AI startup today, you have to have that belief, right? Because otherwise it's like, it's the same thing. Like, I had a company, I think 6-7 years ago, and it was the same thing, right? Like, okay, what if Google builds your business? That was the big question back then, right? Like, if you ask that question for a tech startup, you should just never start. Like, I mean, you could never start, right? You're like, okay, that could happen every day, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think that's kind of part belief, but part, of course, it's a valid point. And so you want to just think about like, okay, what can I learn and how can I build our product so that you stay relevant in the market, really.
How did you get your customers?
I mean, honestly, we use like all the techniques that we obviously we use Superscale to generate ads for paid marketing, right? Like That's a
Yeah.
pretty straightforward case. I think today, when you think about distribution, it's a mix, like means across the board. LinkedIn organic, Instagram organic, X organic. It's very relevant to us. You have paid marketing on different channels, Meta, Google, different platforms. And so step by step, right, you get to like your initial customer base, and then from there it starts growing and you use the different channels. I think this kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation. Like attention is the next big thing that you have to figure out, right? Because everyone is building a software product in the world, literally at some point. And so your go-to-market, your marketing needs to kind of be everywhere, right? You can leverage Superscale, and you can leverage like, okay, the agents that we're building for paid marketing, right? And for different paid marketing channels. And then you still have all the other things you need to take care of, right? You have an email marketing, you have organic marketing. And so you need to be able to really put that mix together, which is why actually I'm thinking like there's no other way than to try and do it agentic. Right. I think the most successful people will be the ones that basically have like one agent for organic, like, and it writes like all the LinkedIn, and then you have one agent for X, and you have one agent for your paid marketing. And it's like you set up all that system to be able to compete with all the other people that are printing out content, much more than they used to. So I think that's how I think about it. And that's actually how we do it as well in our company.
So you already have agents to do all this for your work?
We actually try to, I mean, literally everything that I'm doing, I'm thinking about like, could an agent do this? Right. And most of the times with the right context, it can, right? Literally in every business function, right? You want to think about like, and that's not to do with like, you need a smaller team or so, right? It's literally like, how do you stay productive in a world where there is companies that are running basically their entire business more or less on agents, right? I mean, there's literally companies that offer you to build your entire business autonomously with agents, right? Like where you are just providing an idea and you're saying like, okay, just build the whole thing, and there's no human involved. So it's definitely going this way. And then it's like, okay, how do I make my operation as effective as possible? And that's around like, okay, your analytics, your marketing, your all of where you can involve the help of AI to make your business more efficient. And it sounds crazy, right? Because it's like, okay, now I have to use AI everywhere, right? Like, why is the world so crazy? Yeah, well, the reality is you just cannot change it. Like either you're going to do it or your competitor is going to do it. Right. I mean, this is really like, if I look at the paid marketing space, if I look at what I'm seeing at Superscale right now, like people have been laughing about this. They still laughed about this like last summer, right? Which is like maybe, 9 months ago or 10 months or so. I already said pretty early, like every ad that you see will be AI generated. Every ad. There is no way that's not going to be the case, right? Like, yes, the image models and the video models are still like, sometimes they're gray, sometimes they're not. The progress is insane over the last years, right? We are just getting started with AI. So what's going to happen is that adoption curve will just go crazy. And so then, because every ad is going to be AI, like you have to adopt these systems simply because of your competitive landscape. And so you have to be early in figuring out like, okay, which ad can I make with AI? Where do I still have to iterate? And we have some customers that basically quite early, started using Superscale, and then they realized, okay, like we already replaced a couple of our human created ads with AI. And so they made the whole switch. They said like, okay, stop everything that you're doing. Every ad will be AI. Build the system as good as possible, right? Make the AI system really, really good for us. Like in Superscale, you can create your context and you can, really create your workspace to be even higher quality output. So they invest time into that, into building that system, rather than trying to continue the old way. They invest time in their agentic system, and that's going to pay off big time because they're just going to be so much more effective in what they're doing. So that's, I think, the perspective that I have on that.
That's a good takeaway. I mean, that's what I do myself, like build processes, agentic systems, and workflows. And that's going to save you a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time, but I have like really 2-3 important questions. So Superscale's launch, you had around 500K views, I think, and when you posted, and it went really well. So what was the playbook that sort of worked for you guys for the launch? Give us like 3, 4 steps if any startup
Yeah.
wants to replicate a good AI product launch.
Yeah, definitely. So that launch, indeed, even on the business side, it worked really well for us. And I think so. I mean, there's one note there that's maybe pretty individual, which is like the story of your launch has to be relevant. And so this is kind of takes me back to what I said in the beginning, right? You have to follow where the market currently is, what's interesting, what's happening in the AI world, and your product has to be very much at the forefront of that, right? And so kind of the good launch starts with the product, right? In a way, because you build something amazing, then it's of course easier to get the attention to launch it. We created a video for the launch where it was like really, I think, authentic in a way that it was an introduction by me kind of talking about like, what we built. And then it was a literal actual product demo, right? We didn't animate anything. It was like literally filmed off. I made like one version one day before the launch. I filmed it off my own screen. It was the live product, no fake. It literally works like this. And so you saw the video and you were like, okay, I'm going to really get this of what I'm seeing there. And then I think that the third factor was that, we just had like, a good planning that went into the launch in terms of like, okay, we have a good time. We had our customers informed, of course, the ones that are really, engaged. We had an offer that people can redeem, right? Like they would comment on the launch and they would get a couple of extra credits. And that was actually a meaningful giveaway for people to just like, I still have people like using that voucher today, like that's a couple of weeks after the launch, just getting credits for like trying out the tool and making it really low barrier for you to go in and try and see if it works for you. And so I think these things came together, but ultimately I think the core is that video that you're producing and the product behind it and what you're actually going to talk about. That is a pretty big, that's going to be, pretty massive and influencing, like, do people actually care? Which is why like, it's so important to kind of think about like, okay, the product that I'm bringing to the market, the product that I want to launch or the product feature I want to launch, is that relevant right now, right? And right now can change within 8 weeks. Like right now, everything is about agent. I can predict to you like in 2-3 months latest, it's all going to be like autonomous agents, right? You now you have like the agent that you don't even need to prompt anymore. It's just like doing the work for you. So it's just moving so fast, and I think that's kind of the mix that made it work well.
Do you think this advice is outdated, that ship your MVP, even if it's not good enough?
I mean, this is such a difficult question. That's probably I think that would warrant like a second podcast even. But I think, the short answer to this is I think it's possible still to launch a product early, right? And this is always about like launching a product early where it's like you're not really happy yet and you launch it. The problem with that, I think in today's world, it doesn't hold up 100% anymore because because there's so many products that whatever you launch needs to be relevant in the moment. And in the moment, I mean literally within the 4-week window, right, of where that topic is hot. So I do think that in today's world, if you have something where you think like, okay, this is something that in 2 months will be really relevant, right? Like it's something that's really cutting edge. It's like we are building something that hasn't been built before. We are kind of pushing the frontier. It's actually better to do this and then just build it out and be at this point in time where like, okay, now I have something that's really new, than to launch something today that's like a half-baked feature of like what's trending right now, right? So I actually, when I think about our product, even like, even if we already have customers, even if we're already like, I mean, literally the platform has crazy, usage in terms of how many ads are being built on Superscale every day. Like that's great today. And I'm already spending time thinking about like what will be actually relevant in 2 months, and then like where is everything probably going to be. And then you probably want to build your product more for that future, because then in 2 months, you have something where ideally it's the first time people see something like this. So that's what I'm spending a lot of time on myself. Because then you get that kind of attention, right? Where we did the launch of the last feature, like people had never seen an agent doing something like this, right? Where it's like pulling 100 ads, doing the research, writing everything, and then immediately building the ads. It was like a new workflow. And it was like, okay, this is now 3 jobs I had to do. And it took me like a full day. And now I have this platform where I just do one prompt and I get like a day of work equivalent back. And so that's what kind of caused people to engage, and they found it interesting. And then your launch goes well.
So you're an investor in like 20 companies, you said. What is the thesis you're looking for when you're investing? And most of them are like AI products. You're also an investor in Lovable, angel investor. So,
I have always looked at it from like, would I myself find this an interesting product? Would I find it even interesting to work to build this product? And would I use this product myself? So it's really about, I spend a lot of time, I do the investments together with my friend Felix, and we look at products together always and kind of think about like, how can we support the founders really from our perspective, and that's usually related to product and design, right? But really, I think the core point is like, am I really excited about the product myself? Do I really think like this is an interesting product that someone should build and that I can identify with, and that's an interesting use case? And then I think that you get to know the founders, and that's really my area of expertise, right? Which is like thinking about like, how can a product make a difference in someone's life? And so that's what I spend most time on. So I really, the first thing I ask about every time that someone pitches an idea to me is like, can I try the product? Can I get a feel for the product? And usually it's like an excitement. And Felix and I, we've really done some investments even recently where the product is really crazy, right? The product idea is like, you have no idea really if that's going to work out in the future. Like, is the future going to look like this? No idea. But if it's an exciting product vision that I could see myself interacting with, using and being a user and finding an interesting product, then that's relevant. So that's been, I think, how I've thought about it so far. And I know that this is not, we are not professional investors, right? Like we have a job, we have a day job, and we invest on the side. And so, of course, I don't have like this big investment thesis, but I think that's really been, I always look at the product and the founders, and these two factors kind of decide whether I have a feeling for like, okay, this is really something interesting. I would love to be involved here.
Thanks so much, Patrick. This was fun. And
You're welcome.
And I hope all of our listeners use Superscale as well, and at least play with it.
Exactly. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for the invite, and looking forward. We'll probably do a second time sometime.
That'll be amazing. Have a great day.
All right.